So good evening, everyone. I'm Fire Chief Johnny Menifee. Good to see you. Glad you came out tonight. We have a lot of good information for you tonight, but a couple of housekeeping rules before we begin. If you have to go to the bathroom, so forth, it's through this door, all the way here to your left, right here. As a fire chief, got to make sure if some emergencies, we make sure we also cover the exits. So just take a check on where the exits are, so if you have a problem. Do we have any current or retired veterans in the house? Okay, just double check. And besides the chief over here, I just want to make sure we always like to give tribute to them. A couple of dignitaries in there. I know we had Councilman Mandenbaum. Are you still in the house? He's in the back there. Thank you for coming. I know you're going to hear from Judge Johnson in a bit. I want to point her out, Chief Judge from the 46th District Court. We have Chief Barron. You'll hear from Chief Barron in a little bit, but want to acknowledge him. For the Deputy Chief over here, Hughley, over here, there. Who am I missing? Am I missing anyone? Hi, Jessica in the back. Jessica Stover, our HR journalist for the fire department. Great, great, great. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. Oh, Miss Timms. Miss Timms. Where's Miss Timms in house? Okay. Just want to acknowledge everyone, but we want this to be interactive. We want this to be a learning experience for everybody. I always learn as we go through this myself. So we'll start with, I want to start with social media. And this is the part of here of, so who can tell me, what's one of the first things an employer does when you sign up for a job? When you sign up for a job and you fill out the interview, what does that employer do? Come on, somebody say something. Facebook, right. They check you out on social media. You know, one of the biggest things how we look when you're applying for a police or fire department is we look at your social media. We look at individuals and what they're doing. And that's a big part, that you actually have to watch what you're doing out there. You have to watch everything that you put on social media can come back to you. Just because you think something only lasts for a couple years, 10 years, if you do something bad, we've seen it in history, that if you do something out there on social media, it'll come back to you. So you have to be very careful about what you're doing on social media. That's a huge part. Your email address. Your email address should be first name, last initial type of thing. There shouldn't be all these crazy little things. Something you should watch. You have to watch out what you're doing there on social media with that. These stuff can come back to you. You got now it's the TikTok and the videos and things. You have to watch. You have to watch everything that you're doing out there with that. So I'm not going to take a lot of time with this. I want to make sure that everybody else gets a chance to speak and talk about these things. But these are the things that we want you to watch. We want you to pay attention to what you do. You have consequences. There's a lot of consequences for what you do. So your actions, whatever you're doing, the choices that you make have consequences. So there can be good consequences, there can be bad consequences. But you got to remember that you got to think before you actually decide what you want to do, because it could affect you later on and decide what you can do for the rest of your career. So the things you can imagine. I know a lot of things are going on in social media. You know, you have a lot of political things, a lot of other things that are happening. You have to watch what you post and put out there, because they'll come back on you. And so I just want to remind you of those things. If you can't, you write an email, you're upset. The thing is now is you write the email, you read it, you delete it. You shouldn't hit the send button, the CEND button, because it could turn out to be a SIN, SIN button. So just make sure that you realize these things in a reminder of what you're doing and how you're actually what you're posting out there, because that's how a lot of people will get to know you and interact and how they get their information. If you got a lot of pictures of you partying, you have these red cups in your hands, that's going to be something that your employer is going to look at when they go to hire you. You might say that you have integrity and that you're a good person, but what you're posting, what you're doing out there in this social world is going to say a lot about what type of person you really are. So it's a reminder that you have to watch those things, because one of the first things your employer is going to do is going to look at your social media. They're going to Google you. And if you haven't Googled yourself, you should try it. and see what comes up. See what you're doing, and look at that things, or try to start cleaning these things up. But remember, whatever you post, even if you think it's private and you think it can't be seen, can be. So just another reminder that you need to watch what you're doing out there with the social media, especially these videos that they're posting. It can get you in a lot of trouble. I'm gonna turn the mic over to Chief Barron here, give you a couple quick words as we move through.
Going off to college is a big change in your particular lives. But when you go to college, there's a whole lot of distractions that go along with it. And that's the important message that we have for you today. And that's why you're going to hear from Chief Judge Johnson, who will talk about some of the legal issues associated with your experience. You're going to hear from police officers, Kelly Pate, who will talk about some of the issues surrounding alcohol use, big things in college, drug use, situational awareness. You all hear year in, year out about a college or university that has some kind of issue on campus, whether someone's been assaulted. And so we're going to talk about those things as well. Campus safety. When you get to school, the university will provide you also with a similar type of orientation. But we want you to hear from the police department, the fire department, and our courts as to what our perspective is. And when you get to school, it'll be just a refresher for your benefit. I often get a question about MACE, particularly with our women. A lot of parents have called me, Chief, can I send my child to school with MACE? So MACE is legal as long as it is under 2%. However, I'm going to pause again because once you're going back, say what the chief said. However, you have to check with that particular university as it relates to what their rules are associated with carrying those type of devices. And so check with the university if you, as a parent, want to have your children armed with that type of device to make sure you're not violating school rules, because we don't want to get your child in any type of trouble. But without further ado, let's get right to the presentation, and I'm going to bring up Chief Judge Sheila Johnson with the first presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. And good evening, everybody. Hello, hi. All right, great. I'm really happy that you're all here too. This presentation is really going to hopefully enlighten you about things that you don't know. One thing I know young people don't know is what the law is. And we expect you to adhere to the law, but nobody ever really tells you what you need to know. You know generally some things, but I think this presentation will help you understand what you need to know in many areas. I have picked certain areas that we're going to talk about today, and let's see if that's working. Okay, is that working? I did. Oh, it was on off. Okay, now it's on. Okay, there we go. So, first of all, when I talk about avoiding getting caught up in the system, some of the relevant statutes that I think are relevant for high schoolers and folks going off to college, some of the penalties that are involved here, and the consequences of your actions. Now, as far as getting caught up in the system is, obviously that's not a good thing. And my mother used to tell me, your record follows you everywhere. And, you wonder, what is she talking about? But she's talking about your grades in school, of course, but your criminal record as well. That is there, and in very rare instances, you can change what's on your criminal record, but you don't even want to be in that position to have to go to court and ask somebody to take something off of your criminal record in the first place. So some of this presentation has to do with making good choices. You heard the fire chief say that to you. You gotta be an individual. You gotta start thinking about what your future means to you. Your friends are great, but not everybody that you think is your friend is your friend. So they will coax you to go places, do things where you know things are illegal, such as drinking is concerned, and we're gonna get to that next. because these are the things that you'll get yourself caught up in, and then you'll say, well, I was just with him, and maybe he or she didn't even get charged with it, but you did. So you got to pick your friends well, and you got to start looking at the big picture of whether or not going to a party where you know they're drinking and doing drugs is really the right choice, even though it's a popular person doing it and everybody's going to be there. So the first statute that I'm going to talk about today is assaultive crimes. Now, of course, you know, you can't just walk up and haul off and hit somebody. So that's called assault and battery. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about domestic assaults, drunk drivings, driving under the influence of narcotics, minors and alcohol charges, drug possession, retail theft, larcenies, destruction of property, and I think I even added another one, criminal sexual conduct, 4th degree, which, you know, there's many criminal sexual conduct statutes. This is one of the more basic ones that I think you need to know about. So, there we go, assault and battery. So, most of these assaultive crimes are misdemeanors. There are felony assaultive crimes, though, and that's not going to be the subject matter of my presentation because, you know, if you're using a weapon, assume it's a felony. If somebody is pointing a weapon of any kind, not only a gun, but a knife or anything that could be fashioned to be used as a weapon, such as your boot heel with a spur on it that could injure somebody. So these could be serious felony crimes. Today I'm going to focus on smaller things that you might find yourself in, such as a simple assault. Well, what are the elements that have to be shown to even constitute an assault? Well, first, you have to commit a battery on somebody. Well, what's a battery, you say? Well, that is a forceful, violent, or offensive touching of a person or something connected to the person, such as like their clothing, all right? And that touching has to be intentional, so it can't be an accident. So if you intentionally haul off and just push somebody, that could be considered an assault if they didn't want you to touch them in the first place. You don't even have to injure the person. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're playing around and you're both just playing, that's one thing, because everybody's consenting to play around and joke. But if you're not, and you push somebody out of the way just because they're in your way and you don't like them anyway, that is an assault and battery. So you're going to have to kind of watch those kinds of activities just among friends, all right? And you have to intend to commit that battery. As I said, it can't be an accident. And so, therefore, that's all it is. What's the difference between that and a domestic violence charge? The only difference really is the relationship. So in a domestic violence, it's the same thing, except for you're either going to be a spouse, husband, wife, or a former spouse, or have a child in common with somebody, or reside in the same place, or used to reside in the same place, and or be in a dating relationship. That's all the difference is. They're both 93-day possible penalties and $500 fines. And you think, well, why would you? I need to know about domestic assaults. You'd be surprised the number of high schoolers and then college students that are being, especially some of the women, but it can happen to the men too, that are being bullied by their boyfriend, forced to do things, pushed around, that they're cowering and afraid and they don't say anything. You're a victim of a possible crime there. So you want to be able to know it, first of all, and then stand up and be able to report that to somebody, that you are being pushed around in a violent type of circumstance, even if you're not injured. Injury is not necessary, folks. So you can say, well, I didn't injure the person, I just pushed them. Doesn't matter. No injury necessary. And we've convicted people on this charge with no injuries whatsoever. So that's something to keep in mind, all right? The next thing, under the influence. Okay, so this is a 93-day misdemeanor, but you can also get up to 6 months if the penalty is a little bit higher because of the charge, you're a little bit drunker, or maybe you've had a second offense, or you can get a felony charge, up to 5 years in prison, or up to a $10,000 fine. So drunk driving is really serious, and it's one of the problems that we see that law enforcement has to counter, daily as they're patrolling, and that courts have to adjudicate. Well, if you're not driving, you're getting some knowledge now. Take this into consideration. If you are driving and you're of age, then you need to know about this law. So you can be charged in many ways with operating under the influence. People say DUI, driving under the influence, but in Michigan it's OUI, operating under the influence, or OUIL, operating under the influence of liquor. So what is the legal limit? Well, it's 0.08. 0.08 grams or more per 210 liters of breath or 100 milliliters of blood. So there's two ways they figure out if you're drunk. They can make you blow into a data master machine, and there's a person specially trained to determine that, or they can get a warrant from the court to search your body and search your body for your blood. They get your blood at the hospital, and then they come up with what your alcohol content is. So what's 0.08 mean to you? Probably nothing. How do you know when you're at 0.08? You don't, unless you have a breathalyzer machine. And if you got that, you got a problem, because you don't need to have that with you. So 0.08 really can be one drink, folks. One drink. It could be a Long Island iced tea or something like that that has a mixture of alcohols in it. It can be 1 or 2 shots. I'm not a proponent of that kind of drinking, but a lot of people do it. Shots, and then they want to enhance it with some type of a energy drink beverage to get, higher faster. Don't do it. 0.08 is fairly low. And so if you don't know where you are on that scale and you feel like you can drive, it doesn't matter, because they can prove this case by being under the influence. They don't even need to show the numbers. They can, but they can also charge it based upon whether or not you're driving the right way. Are you able to handle your car the right way? If the officers stop you and you have field sobriety tests that they ask you to do, are you capable of doing those things? All of those things are looked at to see if you're under the influence when you're driving. Same thing, you can be charged with operating under the influence with drugs. So, all you people that think marijuana is so great, it's not. And I can tell you, and I know some of you have probably tried it, even though it's legal, look it up. There are things on the internet that tell you the negative effects of using recreational marijuana, and there are side effects for that. But if you're doing it, and see, I'm a purist. I believe in not putting too much in your body that's not natural, and marijuana is not natural for it. It has medicinal uses that are exempt. Your doctor has to prescribe you or with a medical marijuana card to be able to use it that way. I wouldn't touch it other than using it that way if it's necessary for an ailment that I'm suffering from. But you can't drive with it, folks, in your system. You cannot. That is operating under the influence if you do. So, you're sitting around smoking at home and then you want to go down to the McDonald's and get you a burger. You're driving illegally because it's in your system. You can't have any level of a controlled substance or marijuana in your system if you're operating a motor vehicle. And you think about it, it makes sense, because you're not going to be able to control that vehicle in the same manner that you would if you didn't have the drugs or alcohol in your system. Next, under operating under the influence. Oh, what happened? Here we go. I think there's a delay on this. Okay. How would they prove this case then if I get caught? Well, all you have to do is operate a motor vehicle. Now that means actual physical control of the car. So we all know what driving is, so you think. But you can get this charge by just being drunk and sitting under the wheel of a car with the engine running. Did you know that? You're not moving the vehicle at all. And I had a case that was right down here in Sheila's Pizza parking lot. And the gentleman had stayed longer than his friends. He had had a couple of somethings or another that got him intoxicated. He got in his car, pulled up a foot or two, still in the parking lot, and parked and said, and this was, you know, the right thing to do, I can't do this. I can't drive. So made a phone call to his wife, but she didn't answer. Okay, he waited a while, made a phone call to his daughter. She didn't answer. So he's sitting there waiting for somebody to call him back because he left messages, and he fell asleep because he was drunk and he was in the car. Guess who comes along through the Shields Pizza parking lot? Your friendly Southfield police. And they look at this person that's sitting there, car running, okay? He's sitting there under the wheel, and he gets a drunk driving ticket. So you don't have to be driving to be considered to be in actual physical control of a motor vehicle. The next thing, they have to show you were intoxicated. Well, you know, that's not that hard, depending on what I told you about that .08, whether you're going to blow it on a test or you're going to get a blood draw warrant, and they're going to take you to the hospital and improve that. Or let's just say you're very close to .08, maybe .07. Well, that's something called impaired driving, which I could get to in just a minute. I'm going to talk about that. So it doesn't pay if you're not sure to have had any alcohol at all. And if you're underage, we're going to talk about that in a minute too. Of course, obviously, controlled substances apply as well. So if you're sitting under the wheel of the car under the influence of either one, then it can be inferred that you were driving the car. That's enough for operating the vehicle, such as sitting in the McDonald's drive-thru, ordering your burger, your car is running, your foot is on the brake. They're trying to wake you up to give you your order and you're asleep. That's a drunk driving right there. Same thing with people. These are real cases I've had, actually. Somebody at the stop sign stopped, sleep at the stop sign. The police are come up. They say, well, this car is not moving. They get out of the car. They start knocking on the window. That doesn't work. They start banging on the window. That doesn't work. And in some instances, they got to break the window in order to get the person's attention to get them out of the car. Not a good look, okay? Nobody wants to be in this situation. Falling asleep at the turnaround, making a Michigan U. Falling asleep on I-75 or I-696 on the side of the road because you pulled over because you couldn't go anymore, you can be inferred to have been driving. Because how'd the car get there? And you're sitting in it under the wheel. So those are all instances of operating under the influence. And you probably didn't know that you could be charged that way. Let's move on to some impaired driving. That's a little bit less than .08. So you're still not out of the woods, even if you say, well, I wasn't a .08. The question here is, do you have that physical control of that vehicle? Were you operating it on the highway or another place open to motor vehicles? In all of these charges, people think, well, you know, I wasn't on the road, I was in the parking lot. Doesn't matter. It's a place that's open to motor vehicles. So you can be in a driveway, and if you're drunk, you're operating for purposes of the law. Now, for this charge, it's not a .08 or whether or not you're higher. This is dealing with the drinking of or use of alcohol or controlled substance, and if you're able to drive. Is your ability to drive the same as it would be, as would an ordinary careful driver be able to drive? So your ability to drive must have been lessened to the point that it would have been noticed by someone else. So if your ability to drive has been visibly lessened, not the way you drive, but your ability to drive, although the way you drive is evidence of your ability to drive. So they can just get you for operating while impaired, even if you think you're not drunk, and even if it's less than .08, as long as there's evidence there to show that you can't operate that vehicle in the same manner that you would ordinarily. and that was operating while impaired. So the next is minor in possession of alcohol. This is really important. Luckily for young people, I think the legislators who pass these laws, see, the courts don't pass the laws, the police don't pass the laws, it's your legislators that pass these laws. And that's your state legislator. And then all your city council people across the whole state look at these driving offenses and they adopt those statutes. And I think in this instance, the legislature said, well, young people are young, they're a little hard-headed, that's okay, you're learning. We don't want to criminalize them if they first try alcohol. So they've changed things now. So you're not ordinarily having a criminal record if you're a minor in possession and it's your first offense. Your first offense is going to be what we call a civil infraction. So that's like the same thing if you're just driving and you go through the red light, or you miss the stop sign, you roll through it, or you make a right on red when you shouldn't have been. Those are all civil infractions, and they're not crimes. But, you know, they do have an impact on your driving record, and they carry fines. Well, the minor in possession is a civil infraction, and you get a fine of up to $100. So you get your first, it's kind of like a first little pass. Okay, we're not going to criminalize you. But if you violate after you had one of those civil infractions, then you're at a misdemeanor, punishable by not more than 30 days. So, and if the court decides that you have violated your probation, or they ordered you to treatment and you didn't successfully do any treatment or screening or community service or any of the things that the court could order, or you didn't pay your fine, then you could be charged up to more than $200 or more on a violation. Now, if you have violated this minor in possession statute more than 2 times, then it's a misdemeanor that carries up to 60 days. So you're going from civil infraction to 30 days to 60 days. So the penalties get stiffer. And of course, if you violate your probation or you don't do some of the things court asks you, then your fine could be up to $500 for that. So these things are expensive, folks. You know, there goes your money. If you want to go buy some, you know, little piece of a, I don't know, video game or something like that, you're going to be paying it to the court. Here's another piece of good news. If you plead guilty to your first misdemeanor, minor in possession, you still got a little bit of a reprieve, because the court can take your plea and not enter it as a judgment on your record. That means we can defer it and see how you do. And if you successfully complete everything, then the case is just dismissed without us ever adjudicating you guilty. That is a good thing. So you almost get 2 chances. You get that civil infraction, you get your first misdemeanor, and then the court could still not put that misdemeanor on your record. Of course, you have to fulfill all the terms and conditions of your probation to get that. And if you don't, of course, get that discharge that way, then conversely, if you didn't do what you need to do, then that could remain and go on your record. So you always want to make sure you follow what the court asks you to do in order to get a discharge and dismissal of a first misdemeanor minor in possession charge. Next topic, drugs and drug possession. Now, we're not talking about per se marijuana use, but there are still laws on, you know, having certain quantities of marijuana and distributing it. I'm not even going to talk about those today. I'm just going to talk about possession. There's so much out there law-wise. I'm just going to give you some of the basics. So drug possession, what could that be? You know, some people are into more serious things. Methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine people try. Not cocaine, powder cocaine. So it's a drug possession crime. And what do they need to prove that? You just have to have possession knowingly possession of a controlled substance, any of those drugs or something else that is forbidden and it's a scheduled controlled substance. And you have to possess less than 25 grams of that amount. And of course, that'll get you a felony charge. So stay away from any drugs out there because, quite frankly, you're at the point that possession of that is a felony. Use, unlawful use of a drug. Well, if you have that controlled substance and it's identified as such, and you use it, and you know it's a controlled substance, and you knew that it was a banned substance you weren't supposed to have, that's the elements of use. Also, a felony. You don't want to get involved in illegal drugs, is the message to send. There's no benefit to that, especially when you get to this situation. Possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance. Now you say, I'm not a drug dealer. I mean, who out here is going to say I'm doing drugs? None of you are doing that. But what if you're doing a drug and you just pass it over to somebody? Did you know that's a delivery? You're sharing it. You don't have to sell it. That's a felony too. You just have to possess it. You have to know that you're possessing this substance. You have to intend to deliver it to somebody. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend sit next to you. You say, here, take this. That's enough. And of course, it has to be a certain weight. You know, I think it's, over 50 grams. So it depends on the amount as to whether or not you're going to pick up that kind of a charge. Property crimes. We have retail theft, receiving and concealing property, and destruction of property. How many of you go shopping with your girlfriend or your guy friend and they're stealing something? You know that? Have you heard of somebody like that? That they went out to the store, they didn't intend to steal anything, but their friend did. Well, you can get in trouble just for being there if you did anything to aid them at all, meaning you saw they were doing it and you looked out. You get charged as if you picked it up, put it in your pocket, and walked out. That's what we call aiding and abetting. Retail theft is a 93-day misdemeanor with a $500 fine. Depending on if you've got priors, it could be a 1-year misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine. Or it could be a felony, depending on value. 5-year felony. This includes things like price switching, where you just, this looks expensive, so I'm just going to take this tag off and put this other tag on, and then I'm just going to go through the line and pay for it. Nope, not a good idea. That is a retail theft as well. It also includes false exchanges. Well, somebody gave you something, or you went to the back of the store and picked up something and decided, I'm going to go to the front of the store and return it. Not a good idea. It's a retail theft as well. What do they have to even do to show this crime? Well, you just have to take some property that was offered for sale. And you know what? Let's just say you go in and you're thinking, I'm going to steal it. And so you grab it off the shelf, you put it in your basket, and then you say, yeah, I'm going to take this. Then you say, no, I'm not going to take it. So you go back and you put it back on the shelf. Too late. The intent to steal is already there. So that's already formed the element of the crime. So you can't just put it back. And you know who's watching you to see that you did that? The loss prevention people. I don't understand it, but you all live in a technology age. You all know more than anybody what's out there. They're looking at you through the cameras, and I'm talking about there's a camera in the self-scan machine at Meijer. There's cameras above the self-scan machine at Meijer. There's a person watching all that. There's a person on the floor that looks like you that went down there and is watching everything you're doing. They got cameras everywhere, probably in the mannequins too. So you can't get past this. So any movement of the property is enough if you have that intent to steal it. So you can't put it back. And intent to steal means that at some point you intended to permanently deprive the store of the merchandise. Permanently deprived means you wanted to take it home and you weren't bringing it back, you weren't borrowing it, nothing. And it has to happen at the store or the area of the store, and the store just has to be open to the public. So that's all they need to do to show this. Value makes a difference. If you're stealing something that's less than $200, then it could be the 93-day misdemeanor with a $500 fine. If you're stealing something that's $200 or more, but less than $1,000, well, it could be the 1-year misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine. Or if you're doing more than that, or it's your second offense, you know, you could be looking at the felony charge, the 5-year felony retail theft. Stealing does not pay, and it's very difficult to get away with it anymore because they got all this technology out there that you all know about. Receiving and concealing stolen property. That's something that I'm sure somebody has told you, hey, I got this, and you know, you could get this for $100, and it's a $1,000 item. And you're like, this is a great deal. It's part of the video game I wanted, and I'm just going to get that. Not a good idea because that's a crime. And it could be a 93-day misdemeanor depending on value, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. What do they have to show to get you on this? Well, that the property was stolen. Either you knew it was stolen because somebody told you it was stolen, or it was converted to somebody else's use, or it was embezzled. Like somebody worked at the store and you do the retail theft for the person. If you're working at the store, you embezzled the property because you took it. And those are misdemeanors and or felonies just like retail theft with very similar charges, very similar penalties. But on this receiving and concealing, that you either bought it, received it, possessed it, or concealed it, or aided in the concealment, you knew or you had reason to know that the property was stolen because it was too good of a deal. Or the property was a motor vehicle. You can be charged with theft of a motor vehicle or just regular property. And the value, again, is $20,000 or more. So with that, you could be looking at the 5-year felony with a $10,000 fine, or it could be $1,000 or more, but less than $20,000. And if that's the case, you could be looking at a 10-year felony with $15,000 fine, or a 93-day misdemeanor if it's less than $200, or if it's $200 or more, less than $1,000, you could be looking at a 1-year misdemeanor. Moral of this story is, if you're away from home and somebody tells you, here, you know, I got this, you should pick this up. Don't take it. If it's too good to be true, it's a crime. And sometimes they're investigating rings of theft rings like this. So you don't think anybody's watching you, but there's some undercover person that has looked at the theft ring and like sees you buying it, and there you're caught up in the system. Don't take a good deal like that because it's a bad deal. Okay, next. You're mad at somebody? You're away at school? Or you're in high school? Somebody took your stuff. You want to get them back. So you just trash their stuff. You can't do it. Writing on the desk at school. That's a no-no. You got those hearts, you know, Jenny plus Johnny, and you wrote it on the wall, in the bathroom. Oh, no. That's all destruction of property, and you can't do it, okay? Because that can be, again, all of these things based upon value or the number of times you've been charged with it can vary from 93 days up into a felony. What do they have to show to get you on this? That you had property that belonged to somebody else, you either damaged it or destroyed the property. That you did it knowing that it was wrong. Now, who doesn't know that's wrong? Or you don't have any good reason or good excuse. And I don't like the person, or they did something to me, it's not a good excuse. And you have to have the intent to damage or destroy the property, which is easily shown because you did damage and destroy it. And of course, value again, $20,000 or more, $1,000 or more, but less than $20,000, $200 or more, but less than $1,000, or something under $200 gives you the scan from felonies all the way down to a 93-day misdemeanor. So in short, don't write on property. Don't do a senior prank when you're getting ready to graduate. I had a whole class, almost a whole senior class from Groves High School one year that got charged. The principal told them, don't do any senior pranks. So what did they all do? They did senior pranks. Messed up property at the school, and they all got charged. I had a courtroom full of them. Graduating, going to every school, great school you could think of. Smart kids, what did they do? Followed the group, didn't think for themselves, thought it was a good idea, and then they all got charged with this charge, destruction of property. It comes into play at senior pranks as well. Just don't do it. Don't get involved in it. Don't toilet paper up anything and damage things. My final crime that I added in is sex crimes. There's too much to go into, and I'm not going into all of those today, but this one I think you ought to know about is young men and young women. Now you're old enough, you got a boyfriend, you got a girlfriend, or you're interested in getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I think everybody knows about, rape, and that you can't, have intercourse with people that are unwilling, and as a certain age, you cannot have intercourse with another person, period. I'm just talking about touching somebody. That's what criminal sexual conduct 4th degree is all about, just touching somebody. It's a 2-year felony, or what we call a high misdemeanor. So it goes to circuit court, and it is adjudicated like a felony. It carries up to $500 fine, and there's sex offender registration. So if you did this crime and you never had sex with anybody, your neighbors who constantly check this registry are going to say, I got a sex offender living in my neighborhood. Who needs that red mark on their forehead? I don't think anybody wants that. So how did they get you on this one? Well, all you have to do is intentionally touch somebody or make somebody else touch your genital area, your groin, even the inner thigh, your buttocks, or the breast. Any of that. Either somebody touches you there or you make someone touch you in these places. Even if you got clothes on, the clothing over that area. That's what this charge is. Then that touching has to be done for a sexual purpose, so sexual gratification of some kind for a sexual purpose, or could reasonably be construed as having been done for a sexual purpose. So, guys, I know you like this girl. Don't go up there and pinch her butt and say, woo-hoo, yeah. That's this crime right here. Don't grab any breasts. Talk about, yeah, jugs. No, it's not a good idea because this crime, you're a sex offender. You're going to have to register. Don't be playing around and she doesn't really want you to touch her. You grab her hand. Hey, yeah, feel this. I'm a guy. And you put the hand right down in the important parts. Nope, it's this crime. Don't play around sexually. Just don't do it. You don't have to get to intercourse or somebody underage and any of that. Just don't touch. Now, if you're playing around and she's playing with you, it's probably not this crime. But who wants to take that chance? Don't do it. This is pretty serious. Well, something's going on with my little PowerPoint. It's going backwards. My last thing that I'm going to talk about here is penalties. There we go. convictions. They are on your record. Do you really want to live for a number of years with these convictions on your record? Whatever it is, no matter how minor it is, it matters. First of all, you want a job. Well, you heard the fire chief tell you they're looking at social media. They're coming to the court too. And you know what they do? They hire services. And they look up all these job applications that you filled out, whether it's Meijer or Walmart or wherever you filled it out. They want to know if you lied about something. So they're checking. And these services check. They just go and they pull up records. You got a conviction, you're not going to get the job. You got something pending. I can't tell you the number of young people that told me, I had this job and it was all set to go, and they found out this was pending. I wasn't even convicted. I didn't even get the job. Yep. And if you are convicted, you know you're not going to get the job. You can be a great person. You can have all the qualifications that's necessary for the job. But the other person is a good person, all the qualifications, the only difference is the conviction. They're not going with the conviction. They don't want somebody that's violent in the workplace if you got an assaultive conviction. They really don't want a retail theft or any larceny charges because you might steal from them. So they'll pick the person that has the cleaner record. And if you lied about it and you didn't disclose it, you're likely not to get the job anyway. So that's a problem. You're going to college. Some of you aren't ready yet, but you're getting ready to apply. Well, not only are they looking at social media, they're looking at your records too. They want a well-diverse population of students with a variety of backgrounds. The criminal isn't one of them, okay? You can do community service and work different places, but criminal is not what they're looking for. So you might get in, but the odds are probably not, and you're going to have to write and explain away on your application why you got this conviction. So that's a problem. Well, is there a way around a conviction somewhat other than what I read to you about, in certain cases, the law of minor possession allows us to not put it on your record. In certain drug possession cases, but there is a law that allows us not to put it on your record if you've only been charged with it once. And even in domestic assault cases, there is a law that allows us, it's called diversion, not to put it on your record if it's your first domestic or even assaultive crime, okay? If you got more than one, none of that works. There's something called HYTA, which is it's an acronym, HYTA, and that stands for the Holmes Youthful Trainee Act. And that's what we use for young people. This law was written by a senator who, again, realized that young people are growing, their minds are growing, they're not as adult as they're going to be down the road. So we don't want to saddle them with misdemeanor or even felony convictions. This applies to certain felonies. Now, you can't go out and do an armed robbery. You can't kill anybody. You're not going to get this disposition for those crimes. But you can for more minor misdemeanors and more minor non-capital felony offenses. And what happens is a person that's convicted of a crime or pleads guilty to a crime, not convicted after trial, but pleads guilty. And if you're between the ages of 18 and 21, then basically you could get this just from the court. The prosecutor doesn't have to agree or anything. And if you look good and you look contrite, and this is one time you've done it, you can even have done it more than once. It's in the discretion of the court that they could still give you this status. And what the status does is the conviction doesn't go on your record, at least not at that time. And if you successfully complete everything that the court asks you to do, the case is just dismissed, it's closed out, and there is no public record of this conviction, which is, you don't even want to have to get there because there is a non-public record that we keep. But it's something to ameliorate the problems that you will have with a conviction. Now, if you're older than 21 up to age 26, the law was expanded to still allow this to happen, but the prosecutor now has to agree if you're older. They have discretion to weigh in on it and say, well, even if the judge wanted to, I don't want you to. So you can't get this status if you're older. Most of the time, the prosecutor wants to help folks out. And if you haven't done 500 crimes, you're likely that a prosecutor is going to agree with this and give you an agree to this status. And hopefully you successfully complete these items and you don't have a record. After age 26, unless there's a specific law that some of the ones I've gone over with you today that applies, that allows for this kind of dismissal, that's it. You just got a conviction. And major convictions on your record, I've seen it. 5, 10, 3 even, 2, 1 even, are problems. And how many people express that I can't get a job? I'm a nurse, but I got convicted of something here. So now I can't even renew my license. I'm already a nurse. It's not like you're going to school. I've seen people that have had to stop and change their whole career because they had a conviction, and the state of Michigan's not going to give you a license for those careers if you've got convictions. So you don't know what you want to do right now. You're young, you're impressionable, you think you want to do something, you get to college, you might change your mind. And the area that you pick might be an area that a conviction would stop you from moving forward. So the moral of all of this is I've tried to cover some of the crimes that I think apply most to young people that you would likely run into. And the moral of the story is to start to try to think on your own. Think about the bigger picture. Your actions count. You got to be responsible to yourself. You got to know your friends. There's a concept that 2 people can be charged with possession of something. So you know your friend has drugs, but you don't do them. But you chose to get in the car with them. The drugs are just sitting in the center console in both of your reach. You could get charged. 2 of you could get charged with possessing the same item. Same thing with a gun. He or she has a gun, and it's right there, accessible to both. You could get charged. And you don't want to be in the position of being charged and then have to go to trial and try to defend yourself and explain away, if you choose to testify, explain away what your role was in that situation. Who you hang out with and associate with matters. And you got to start to think, boy, he or she, I love them to death, but they're not meaning any good to you. I tell people all the time, they're not your friend, because if the police come, they're going to take off running and leave you holding the bag for whatever it was, whether you did it and they both did it or not. They don't care. You got to care about your future. You're the shepherd of your future. You got to make the long-range decisions. You got to see the bigger picture of where you think you might want to go in life and how these associations and the decisions that you make matter. That aiding and abetting concept I talked about on the retail theft, it matters too. Don't be with somebody and look out or drive away the car after they went in the store and stole and you found out they were stealing. You're going to be charged just as if you were the person who went in and did it. So know your friends, know your people, enjoy yourself. None of this is meant to scare anybody that's getting ready to grow up and go to college and go away. It's meant to advise you so that you can comply with what the laws are that most affect you. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you got something out of it, and thanks for being attentive today. Appreciate it.
So the next speaker is going to be Police Officer Antoine Corkus, one of our finest traffic officers, and he's going to go over some rules for you to know. What if you're stopped by a police officer? How do you conduct yourself, and what are your rights related to that officer who stops you? So Officer Corkus, take it away.
Thank you, Chief. So my name is Officer Anthony Corkus. Let me put this slide here. All right, so I've been with the City of Southfield Police Department for approximately 4 years. I have worked at 2 other police departments. I've worked in the state of Ohio in the Bryan Police Department, and I've also worked for the City of Harper Woods. I also play on a hockey team, just a fun fact to know about me. We did beat the fire department at the last hockey game on May 1st, if you guys didn't know. I usually do have a partner with me. His name is Officer Jordan Woodside. He's not here. He's currently working on the road covering the traffic duties right now. My responsibilities and duties as a traffic officer, I do handle patrol runs also when needed, but my primary responsibilities are to ensure the safety, educate the motoring public. I do traffic investigations, certified as an accident investigator here in the city of Southfield. OWI, OUI, OUIL, operating under narcotics enforcement. Traffic complaints, we also have something called the Godham complaints, where we're focused on a certain area of enforcing traffic, whether that be at a certain intersection, especially like 12 Mile and Telegraph, which is very busy here in the city of Southfield. Now even more because they're building a Chick-fil-A. If nobody didn't notice or anything, they are building a Chick-fil-A, so be careful at 12 Mile and Telegraph. Abandoned vehicles, and then also parking complaints within the city, whether that be private property or a public street. Jump to that one. So this is one of our main things that our chief instituted when he came here, is a lot of people not knowing what to do when involved in a traffic accident, when stopped by the police. So we actually have these cards here. I have one in my back pocket. They're actually available at our front desk. There's actually some over on our recruitment table if anybody wants to grab one. And there's just bits of information that are on here to assist you with any type of traffic stop or when involved in an accident, especially if it's your first time. So your responsibilities, which we like to see, is have the radio turned down. I understand it's summer, sun's out, you want the windows down. Turn down the radio so we can hear you. It's very hard to hear over traffic. We also have our radios that are going off usually in our ears or on our lapels, which are on our shoulders. Turning on a dome light at night just helps us see your hands. I prefer that your hands be on the steering wheel. It's just much easier to see. And another thing I like to add to this would be to pull off the roadway. A lot of people stop like in the middle of Telegraph. I'm not trying to get hit. I don't want you to get hit. I don't want my car to get damaged because I do have my own car here and I don't like to lose it because I don't get it for like another few months. So pulling off the roadway is huge, whether that be onto a side street, into a parking lot. If you want to pull in a well-lit area, that's fine. If you do need a little bit of time to pull over because you do need to slow down, just turn on your hazards and let us know instead of just continuing to going. Just helps us have a better perspective of what we're going to expect when meeting you. Upon a request, we just need your driver's license, your registration, and insurance. Insurance now can be digital. I'm even okay with registration being digital. If you want your parents to send you a picture and you want to screenshot it because you can't log into the app, more than welcome to do that. I don't have an issue. I don't like holding people's phones just in case I drop them and break them. So if you could swipe over for me and maybe zoom in, that's completely fine with me and perfect with, I would assume, every other officer here in the city of Southfield. Be polite, respectful. Don't argue, be calm. You can have a court date for that. I have no problem with you explaining yourself, telling me what was going on. If you got to get home because you got to be home before 9 o'clock, there's no issue with that. We're here to listen. I'm here to hear you out. Keep your hands visible on the steering wheel, as I had said. Once I'm up at the car, most people are a little bit nervous, so you can relax. I don't have an issue with that. Just as long as you're not digging under the seat or digging in your pockets, your hands just being on your lap is completely okay with me. Provide truthful information. Same thing, that goes with your name, any information, lying about your name. I mean, we find out pretty easy. Your license plate comes back to usually where you live, or if it's your parents' car, I can search your address and tell you are, and a picture of you pops up on my computer. So it's pretty easy to lie and say if you're, your sister or your brother. Very easy to find that out. If you feel that your rights have been violated, you can always request a supervisor. You can request a supervisor at any time here in the city. We usually have a minimum of about 3 sergeants on the road, so they will all respond. One of them will respond. Somebody will be out there. It might take a few minutes, but they'll be out there. You can explain whatever it is you need to them. They'll speak with us. We'll figure out a solution to whatever the issue may arise or may be at that point in time. This would be for when you're a little bit older, if you have a concealed pistol license, what the CPL stands for, or if you have any type of weapon in the vehicle, if you go hunting with your grandma, grandpa, dad, mom, just let us know if there's a weapon in the vehicle. Don't produce the weapon. Just give us a heads up when your hands are on the steering wheel that, hey, I have a shotgun in the trunk. I have a pistol on me. Anything to that sort just helps us know, makes us feel more secure when we're speaking with you. Your driver's rights when stopped. Here in the city of Southfield, this is more geared towards Southfield. This is part of our policies here. So I just don't want this to get misconstrued if you guys get stopped by the next town, Bloomfield or Berkeley. But our main thing here is you're going to get the reason why you were stopped prior to you producing any information, whether that be your driver's license, your registration, or your insurance. My whole spiel is usually I say my full name, I'll say I work for the police department, and I'll also usually say that I work for the traffic unit, and then I'll explain for the reason for your stop. I usually don't ask people, like, do you know how fast you were going? I will just straight up say you were doing 50 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and then request your information. Know the officer's name and badge number. Again, it's a pretty simple thing. I don't know why people don't, some police officers don't tell people. Like, I'm proud to say who I work for, my name, and my badge number. It's something I felt that I've earned my whole career. So, treated with courtesy and respect. If you need medical attention, this happens a lot. Sometimes we get called to erratic drivers, or somebody thinks somebody's drunk, and somebody's just actually having a medical issue, especially like a diabetic. Whoops. Good catch. Diabetic, so you can request mechanical attention anytime. We do have a full fire department, paramedics, and if we need extras, they have more extras to come. In certain cases, your car can be searched without a warrant, as long as we have probable cause. Not so much anymore nowadays, but back when I first started, I'm not that old, but the smell of marijuana was an automatic search of your vehicle. That has changed, but there is certain exceptions that we deal with where we can search your vehicle. If you're arrested, you have the right to remain silent and talk to a lawyer before talking. It's your Miranda rights. I'm sure if you've watched Cops or if you watch any TV show, you've heard them read their Miranda rights multiple times. I'm not going to reiterate it and say it into your head, but it is your right. So, and if you're arrested, you have a reason, you need to know why. I have no problem telling you now. There may be a charge added later, but you'll be notified of why you were arrested. Not immediately, but once you're seated in the car and we're secure, we will definitely notify you of why you've been arrested here in the city of Southfield. And then if you feel your rights have been violated, you can file a written complaint. Our police department's right behind us. It is open 24/7. You can walk into the lobby. Anybody can file a complaint for whatever reason. You don't even have to have contact with that officer. If you see an officer driving recklessly without his lights and sirens on and you want to file a complaint, you can walk right in. There's always a sergeant or a lieutenant on duty who will take your written complaint. There's no questions asked. It's a pretty simple form you fill out. Supervisor goes over it with you, and then it's passed up the chain of command, which would be to like our deputy chief and our chief. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. The chief will tell you this. If we're right, we're right. I mean, he's pretty clear on that information. This is something that the city of Southfield started, the police department. It's something called Please Stop Me. This is more geared towards newer drivers, but we do have some people who are turning 18, going away to college that come to this. So in 2019, the city of Southfield launched and led the Please Stop Me, which is a simulated traffic stop program for teens and new drivers. Usually takes place in an empty parking lot. Multiple officers, including myself, are usually out there. And what we do is we do mock traffic stops on there. It focuses on the safety of citizens as well as officers during traffic stops, along with new drivers learning various reasons for traffic stops and then what they're to do in an accident. Now, that's the main thing I see is somebody gets in a minor accident, whether it's you got rear-ended or you rear-ended somebody. Everybody kind of freaks out a little bit because it's their first accident and calls their parents, and then usually the parents are kind of freaked out too and all come racing out there. So this is a great program. For the traffic accidents, that's what I personally prefer it for. It's great for the traffic stops too, but traffic accidents, it just gives you an idea of what to expect when we're coming out there with the other driver, what to tell your parents if you're not so freaked out when you're calling them to tell them you got involved in an accident, smashed their new car or something to that sort. So it's open to high school students with a valid driver's license or a driving permit who live and attend school in the city of Southfield. The parents must come too because we have to use your car, so the parents must be there. We are going to do this year. We'll have to check with Miss Kelly over there to see the exact dates, but I know the dates are coming up. I just wasn't able to put them into this presentation at this point in time. But it is something if you just want to come watch. There's usually free food, and last year we gave away gas gift cards, and gas is really expensive nowadays. So if you want to come out for it, cool event. You get to meet us. You're more than welcome. Check out my police car. Check out my laser unit, my radar unit. See how I catch speeders. And so on and so forth. This is I wasn't going to put this in the presentation, but this is actually something that recently has been pretty big in my enforcement, which is the safety belt law. That percentage is actually a little bit higher. It's closer to 96% now. Just haven't had a chance to update that. Here in Michigan, the actual average national rate is 89%. So we are a little bit higher. The reason why I put this in is more recently I have been seeing seatbelts worn, and especially in the summer, people wear tank tops and such. And I've been getting a lot of people who actually have seatbelt marks across their chest, and it can show you how much it will actually save you. I had a girl not too long ago, a younger female, who hit a telephone pole head-on over at 9 Mile and Telegraph, and the actual seatbelt was kind of welted across her chest. And I wish I would have put the picture in here, but to see what a seatbelt does, I know it's not the coolest thing, it's not the most comfortable thing, believe me. I usually wear the uniforms that the gentlemen in the back are wearing, and it's not the most comfortable at all. But I will tell you, it saved countless lives, and a lot of police officers don't wear seatbelts, and you can check the statistics on that, but it saves more lives than you would ever think. And then just another little stat here is every 1% increase in seatbelt uses, so 10 traffic deaths and 100 fewer serious injuries. Going back to follow up with the judge about impaired driving. So one person is killed on average about every 52 minutes in drunk driving crashes, totaling more than 10,000 lives lost per year nationwide. Here in Southfield, the chief allowed us all, traffic unit, to go to something called ARIDE, which is the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. What that is it's able to detect narcotics in people's systems and bodies just by doing the simple test that I'm sure everybody has seen, like the walk and turn, the one leg stand. We can actually tell what kind of drugs you're under the influence of by a few more additional tests. Well, it's counting your heart rate. There's another eye test that we can do with it. So we're actually all certified in that. And then going back to what the judge saying, the way that we can tell is any THC, which would be your marijuana, or anything in your blood, which we can simply get a warrant for. It's actually just an email and a phone call now. We've updated the system with the help of DC Hughley over there. We were able to get an emailed system out, so it's a lot faster than what a fax machine is. If you guys know what those are, I don't know if they use them anymore, but through an email. So it's a lot quicker to do that. And any amount in your system is chargeable. And then any operating under the influence, if you have 3 in your lifetime, your third one becomes a felony. So it's an automatic felony here in the state of Michigan. So when I worked in Ohio, there were certain times after 6 years, it kind of fell off. But here in Michigan, if you get 3 of them, it's an automatic felony. You become a convicted felon. You're probably never going to have a driver's license again. And by the time you're backed up in so many fees, so many court costs, it's just not worth it. With nowadays, they have so much Uber, Lyft, call your parents, your uncle, your aunt. There's just so many ways around it that it's not even worth it nowadays. Back in the days, there wasn't so much easy accessibility as an app to click on and somebody would pick you up in 5 minutes. Nowadays, it's so much easier. The $10 that it costs you to get that ride is going to save you a lot more than $10,000 in court costs. That's going to come back to you and your parents, and then maybe eventually on your credit later in life when you go to apply for a house or a car or whatever it is that you may be. Just a couple tips. Never drink or drive high. Again, the .08, it depends really on your body system, but as she said, a couple shots, it's not hard to get up to that, depending on your body weight. And then, like she said, drinking energy drinks, and if you smoke some weed with it, it'll shoot you right up and, again, cost you so much money. And it's just not worth it to you when there's so many other ways to get home or to get where you need to be. I mean, even she said go to Taco Bell or McDonald's. They have Grubhub and DoorDash for that. It's all on the same app. So don't let somebody get behind the wheel if that person has been drinking, especially if it's your car or your parents' car. Towing a car here in the city of Southfield, a rough guesstimate for me from just doing accidents and stuff, if your car sits at the yard for about 1 day, you're looking at about $200 in fees. Again, if that's your parents' car, doesn't matter if it's, you weren't driving the car, you're looking at about $200 just in fees just to get that car out, and that's not anything else. If you're hosting a gathering, make sure everybody has a sober ride home. Always wear your seatbelt again. Going back to what I said, seatbelts save more lives than you could ever count. And if you see a drunk driver, you can call 911. Our 911 is open 24/7. We're here 24/7. We're on the road. We usually have 10 officers here on the road in the city of Southfield. We'll be there. We're all over the city. Won't be hard to, well, I hope you guys don't spot me because I drive an unmarked car, but yeah, if you're committing traffic violations, but we're around whether you see us or not. That was for the chief's mom because she didn't like the roundabout, so we'll skip that one though. Another big one is road rage. So I'm sure if you guys watch the news on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, road rage is huge, whether people are shooting, throwing things at car, causing crashes. So just a couple pointers to combat road rage. Don't make eye contact with the driver. People like to stare each other down. It causes you to be distracted on the roadway, causing other accidents. If you do get into some type of altercation, road rage altercation, you can call 911. Keep your vehicle moving. Don't try to stop, tailgate the vehicle. Know your location. If you don't know where you're at, point out landmarks, whether that be Meijer, Taco Bell, Wendy's, whatever it may be. We'll know. We'll get an idea once you start calling out where you're going, and we can get there. Allow the other driver of the vehicle to pass or just move along, even if you have to turn a different way. If you need to turn onto 12 Mile instead of keep going north on Telegraph, turn off onto 12 Mile. Just save yourself the time and the hassle. Don't drive home. A lot of people like to follow each other home. Please don't drive home. You can pull over into a well-lit public area. If not, and if you know where the police department is, you can drive right to our front lot here. There's always an officer that sits inside the station behind the front desk, as well as the lieutenant is usually inside of the police department also. So you have a minimum of 2 officers there, and then other officers obviously within the building also. And if you're able to obtain the license plate and make a model of the vehicle, that's great and awesome. We could always follow up with that driver. And that goes for the same thing going back to like a hit and run. If somebody hits your car and they take off, again, don't follow. Minor damage, just no point in causing another accident. Just obtain the license plate, make and model of that other vehicle, and we can follow up with them. Again, your license plate comes back to where you live, who drives it. We can piece together that information. You just have to give us the time. It doesn't work like on TV where they find it the next day. But if you give us time, we'll be able to follow up and find out that information for you. And we can pass it along so you can get whatever it is you need to be if your car needs to be fixed through your insurance companies. This is just a short list that I made. Should I call 911 or not, just goes to tying up our 911 line sometimes. If you see a drunk driver, call 911. Give us their direction, what they're doing, vehicle make. Speeding vehicles, the non-emergency number would be better. Reckless drivers. A lot of these reckless drivers actually turn into be like cars racing or actual drunk drivers. So you can call 911 on that. Any motor vehicle or pedestrian accident, call 911. If you can get off the roadway in a motor vehicle accident, that is the best. A lot of people stop, middle of Greenfield, middle of Telegraph. If you could get off the roadway safely, it makes it much better because people don't pay much attention now. Everybody's cell phone is usually either in their hands or on top of their dashboard, and they're not paying no attention. And then when they see my lights on in the middle of the road, they like to stare at my car and not stare at the other cars that are on the roadway or pay attention to the lights, and we have a few more accidents that happen. Disabled vehicles happens a lot, running out of gas, any type of car trouble. Obviously activate your hazards. You can call our non-emergency number, and we will be out there to assist you, whether that be calling our tow company, waiting for somebody to bring you gas. We're pretty reasonable with that, waiting to try and assist you. And then my last follow-up would be if there's any questions, any scenarios that anybody wants to know. If not, then that's my presentation. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for coming out.
Another great job by Officer Corkus, again, one of our finest traffic officers. The next officer is Officer Kelly Pate, as always described as a dynamic community police officer. You see her all the time in the community, you see her on the news. Matter of fact, she's a legend, she's a star. So without further ado, Officer Kelly Pate.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and taking part in your own personal safety. This is so important, so I commend all of you for being here this evening. As the Chief said, my name is Officer Kelly Pate, and I am the community officer. I've been a police officer for 21 years, and I started out in patrol here with our police department. Worked patrol primarily for over 10 years, and then I put in for community policing and became part of that unit. So this evening, like we said, we're going to talk about personal safety, which is so important. Excuse me, I forgot one thing. I have a prop I wanted to use this evening. Did anyone see, I think someone took my bag. Did anyone see someone? Did you see what she looked like? My laptop? I had my laptop here. The bag right here? Okay. Well, and someone, I'm going to give you props because you participated in my Citizen Academy, so typically people don't pay attention and don't see someone take my bag. So that's usually not how that goes. So that's okay. That was my sergeant who took my bag, and that's okay. But usually, and that's part of this, people don't pay attention to our surroundings, and that's part of our learning process tonight and what I wanted to talk about in personal safety. So you are your own first responder. Yes, the police are coming, and yes, we are responding, but part of this is we want you to pay attention to your surroundings, and that is very important. Pay attention to who is around. Pay attention to who's coming and going, and where are our exits in this room? Do you know how to get out of here if you need to? Bad things happen. Yes, prevention is key. However, bad things happen that are not preventable. Personal safety can be time consuming. It's inconvenient, but it is important, and you are worth it. So who is a high school senior? Last year, going away to college this year? Any? Okay, congratulations. Congratulations. Who's high school senior this year? Any seniors this year? Okay, but high school, anyone in high school this year? Okay, awesome. So if you're going away to college or even in high school this year, download your college or university app. Receive those safety alerts. Pay attention to what's going on within your particular university or college and your surrounding area, not just that school. Find and identify the locations of the blue light safety phones that you can utilize. Maybe your phone the battery will die, or you forget your cell phone. Know your location. I know Officer Corkus mentioned that. Knowing your location is paramount. If you take nothing else away from this, know your location. So many of us have become dependent on our cell phones and utilizing the GPS. So if nothing else, please learn to know your location and what street you're on, what address you're at. And tonight we're at 26,000 Evergreen, but do you know what building we're in if we were to have to call 911? What is really active within our world today as far as in the news? Active assailant, active shooter, right? So while we're not going into that necessarily tonight, learn your campus, the buildings you frequent. So when you receive those text message alerts, you know where you can and can't go maybe. Maybe there's an alert that just came out that you should know about. Pay attention and learn again, your location, whether you're driving, walking, or taking the bus. Personal belongings. Keep your dorm room locked. Use a small safe to keep your valuables protected if necessary. Inscribe your valuables, take a picture to identify them, and don't leave your laptop, earbuds, cell phones, etc. on the table in a coffee shop or restaurant while you use the restroom. And document your laptop and cell phone serial numbers. Social media, being smart, and online dating information. So I know Chief Menifee went into this as well, colleges even. If you're a scholarship, if you are up for a scholarship for that, your colleges are checking that. They're looking into who you are and checking that before they offer that scholarship. But for social media and being smart, don't publicly announce when you are home alone or leaving town. Don't let somebody know when that's occurring. And review the settings on your social media profiles and know who your audience is that you're sharing that information with. Online dating, just a few quick tips. Find out as much as you can about the person. I'm not saying set up surveillance and go watch them before you go on a date with them. Don't be creepy. But check them out. Look at their Facebook page. Make sure that you know when you are going on a date that it's planned and that you know the location and that it's public. It's in a public known place. Always meet in a public place. And if you can, go with a group of friends. Always let someone know that you're going, and don't hesitate to take a picture of their license plate. So, in some of this, your vehicle safety tips, arriving to a location or a parking lot, scan the area for anyone or anything suspicious upon your arrival. If you see someone that doesn't look right or doesn't feel right, follow your gut. Don't hesitate to follow your gut. And if you do see that, don't get out of your car. Leave that area and call 911. Park as close as you can to the building in a well-lit area. Don't park around any large obstructions such as the landscaping or dumpsters that allow someone to hide. Secure any valuables in the trunk and don't leave them visible. Make note of where you parked. So when you exit from that building, you're not searching for your car. When you put your car in park, lock your doors till you're ready to exit. A lot of times now, our cars automatically unlock themselves as soon as you hit that park button. Don't remain in your vehicle any longer than necessary. And prior to exiting your vehicle, scan your area again. So have a plan, and this is a big one. I know Chief Judge Johnson touched on drinking and consequences in that. Have a plan ahead of time to get home safely. If you're 21 and you are of legal age to drink, don't drive. That just makes it most safe now with Uber and Lyft and everywhere that you can make it home safely so many other ways. Use a buddy system. Avoid walking deserted paths. Be mindful of the amount of alcohol you consume. Never accept a drink poured by someone you don't know or trust. And never leave your drink unattended. If you set that drink down, walk away, and you come back to it and it's been unattended, leave it and get another one, whether it's ice water or something else. So if you're getting ready to leave a location, prior to exiting that building, and a lot of this could apply more so to a mall or something such as that, but prior to leaving that location, if you can, let a friend or family member know, I'm leaving here, you can expect me at this location in this amount of time. Have your keys out and ready. It's rare that you will see me with something in my dominant hand. I typically do not. I will have 30 bags in my left hand before I will have both my hands full. So try to keep your dominant hand empty, because that's what you're naturally going to react with. While walking to your car, continue to be aware of your surroundings, the people and cars near you and in your area and space. When you enter, lock your car and get ready and leave. Try not to linger or sit in your car and be in that area. So when I talk about learning how to defend yourself, this is going to be a personal preference again. Signing up for a self-defense class. And making a plan, having a plan. Walk with confidence. Keep your head up, your shoulders back. Don't be afraid to make eye contact with someone. If they walk by you and you're kind of unsure of them, say hello to them. If somebody is a criminal or would like to do something or is thinking of it, they don't want you to be able to identify them. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but at that point, make your chances less. In the instance that also, when paying attention, I know headphones we're on our phones all the time. Try to not walk with your headphones in your ears so you can listen and pay attention to your surroundings. Use your voice. If something were to go on, what is your plan? Don't be afraid to use your voice. We do have whistles on the back table there. Hook a whistle to your keychain. I know a lot of times the personal alarms and things like that are really popular. Are you going to have it with you, or are you going to have it charged? Some of them have to be charged. So have those things out and ready. Chief Barron mentioned about pepper spray. So those things are all options. Also, I've had a lot of questions about the taser guns, and we've heard things about the ladies with the makeup parties and the makeup that look like tasers. Those are illegal. Tasers are legal to carry so long as you have a CPL license. So keep those things in mind. So I know I flew through that information quite quickly. Any questions for me? If not right now, my information is up there. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. As we keep moving. Oh, it's a little clicker? I'm going to have to add for my buddy that's coming up here. You know, we got one more speaker. Got Inspector Investigator Chris Wurtz from our department. He's going to go over some things about your dorm room, about fire safety, and the things that you should be doing. He is the individual after you have a fire. He comes in and finds out why you had a fire, what you could do better, and help you get your situation back together. But we do got friends from Oakland County Health that have some vaccinations, some great information. We got our friends from Family Against Narcotics in the back. The police and fire department have booths. You can ask us questions, as well as the Alliance of a Coalition. So you don't have to leave after the inspector gets done. We'll be around to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, come on up there, Chris.
Okay, how you doing? My name is Chris Wurtz. I'm a fire inspector here with the fire department. Been with the department for just about 23 years. First 19 years I rode on the truck, the fire engine, and the life truck. For the past about 4 years, I've been a fire inspector. Now, when I say fire inspector, what that means is we do building inspections. So somebody's building a new building in the city, we inspect it to make sure it's safe. Existing buildings in the city, we inspect those to make sure they're safe. So when you go to the local hardware store or the local pharmacy or something like that, CVS, whatever, we're making sure that that building is safe for the citizens and the people that are in it. So we're making sure the exits work, making sure the exits aren't blocked, that kind of thing. So we do all that. We do all kinds of inspections on buildings, being built and existing. The other thing we do is public education. So things like this, teaching you guys about fire safety, cooking safety, kitchen safety, all that kind of stuff. We do that. We go to schools and talk to the kids, the little kids. We start when they're young, teaching them about fire safety and about being safe. We have a smoke alarm program. So through the state of Michigan, they got a grant and we install smoke alarms in the residences of Southfield. So single family dwellings, condos, that kind of thing. If you don't have smoke alarms, my information will be in the back. You can get a hold of me. We come and install those smoke alarms for you, carbon monoxide alarms, and that's free of charge. It's all through the state of Michigan. Then the other thing, like the chief said, was we investigate the fires after they happen. So we do our best to try to prevent the fires, but inevitably they happen. And so we also do the investigations. We come in after the crews have put the fire out. We come in and we try to figure out exactly what caused the fire and how we can prevent that from happening again. So, and that's part of my presentation tonight, how to prevent cooking fires and related injuries. Now, this PowerPoint has a lot of good information. I'll cruise by some of it, but I want you to be aware of some of the things I say in here, so I'll highlight that stuff. Okay, so cooking is a leading cause of home fires and injuries, okay? 1 in 8 households that have a cooking fire, and mostly happens in the kitchen due to unattended cooking. So I mentioned that I've been with the department now a total of 23 years. I've seen just about all of these things happen, okay? I've seen a lot of kitchen fires, and some of them have been just gotten out of control, but a lot of them have been unattended. And it's not, people aren't doing things on purpose, right? So it's real easy. So a guy was cooking something on the stove. His friend pulled up in the driveway. Unannounced, just pulled up. Great. Friend's here, goes outside, starts talking to him, completely forgot about what he had on the stove, right? Started his house on fire. Another lady about a year and a half ago, she was starting to make dinner, realized that she had an appointment for her COVID vaccination, grabbed her kids, left the house to go get her COVID vaccination, forgot that she had started cooking dinner. So those things happen a lot. You don't realize them, but they do. And that's just accidents, right? But I'm telling you that so that you'll be aware of what's going on when you're cooking, okay? So, safe cooking. So whether you're doing it, you know, in your dorm room, in your apartment, at your house, anything, all this stuff is good information. So pay attention to what you're heating and know what can happen, right? So if you're boiling water, that's different than heating up oil, okay? If you're frying something in a pan, that's different than boiling something in the pan, okay? Stay alert. Keep the things that can catch fire away from the heat, know what to do, keep kids away, and we'll go through these. Okay, so watch what you heat, right? I think I'm doing it right. Okay, so when you fry, grill, or boil, stay in the kitchen, all right? Stay in the kitchen all the time, all right? We don't tell you to stay in the kitchen so much, or you have to stay in the kitchen when you have something in the oven if you're baking something. Anything on the stovetop, we want you to stay in the kitchen and pay attention to what's going on. Here we go. When you simmer, bake, or roast or boil, right, stay home, don't leave. You might not have to stay in the kitchen, right, but pay attention. It says turn off the stove if you're going to leave and check on a cooker regularly, use a timer. Most people have some kind of Siri, Google, whatever it is, set a timer. Hey Siri, set me a timer for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be, so that you don't forget. It's easy to forget. At another fire, I'm just thinking about it now, where someone put something on the stove and they thought, oh, I'm just going to go take a quick shower. While they were in the shower, right, it got going too quickly, right, started their house on fire. Okay, stay alert. This is a big one, especially for people who take medications and for everybody that has different schedules nowadays, okay? So if you're taking medications that you know make you drowsy, don't start cooking after you take those medications, right? Makes sense, but not everybody does it. Not everybody thinks about that, right? Sometimes medications work more quickly or slowly depending on what you've done that day, depending on what you've eaten that day. And you might think, oh, I'm okay, I usually take my medicine, and then I can cook something because I have a half an hour. Well, maybe not that time, okay? The different schedules nowadays, right? College kids, right? Young adults, right? You're going all over the place all the time, okay? And you do different things, right? So you might drive for DoorDash, you might drive for Uber, right? You might do that kind of stuff. You come home in the middle of the night, right? And all of a sudden you're hungry, you want to make something, but you're a little bit tired, and maybe you're more tired than usual. So don't cook, right, if you're tired. Okay, goofy picture, I'll admit, old picture, but see how her sleeve is hanging down? Okay? That's how people get hurt, and that's how fires start, okay? The things next to the stove, right? We want to keep those away, all right? So you got to keep things away from the side of the stove, okay? If it's in proximity to the stove, it could catch fire. So you got to keep things away. Keep flammables away. A lot of times people want to put a paper towel holder or something like that, or even like it showed in that picture, the bread. Maybe not even a bread box, but a loaf of bread, right? Keep things away from the stove. Okay, and there's where it says wear tight-fitting, rolled up, or short sleeves when you're cooking, right? If you got something that's hanging down, right, and you're reaching over, that can be a problem, right? Not only does that cause a fire, but that can have your clothes on fire, and then you'll get burned. If your clothes catch fire, stop, drop, and roll. We teach the kids all the time, and it's not anything that you should be forgetting, okay? Because even as adults, we need to know to stop, drop, and roll. Whenever your clothes catch fire, you stop, drop, and roll, okay? We try and make it very clear to the kids. As little as like 3 years old, we start teaching them this. Maybe even a little bit younger. Stop, drop, and roll if your clothes are on fire. Now, if there's a fire in your house, we don't want a little kid to stop, drop, and roll, right? Because that's a fire in your house. If your clothes are on fire, you stop, drop, and roll. Even as adults, no matter what age, stop, drop, and roll. It will never get old. Okay, so if you have a cooking fire, if there's any doubt of a fire going on and you don't know what to do, or you're scared or you panic, get out of the house. Get out of the house and call 911. Most people have cell phones. It's either in your pocket, right? If you leave a cell phone in your house and you get out because of a fire, go to your neighbor's house, flag someone down driving down the street, someone walking, right? Get someone to call 911. Okay, best thing you can do if you're doing something on your stove, on top of the stove, is to have an oven mitt handy and a lid, okay? A lot of these fires can be put out simply by smothering them with a lid. So if you have an oven mitt there, and you have the lid next to where you're cooking, right, you can easily grab the lid and put the lid on that pot or that pan, and it will smother the fire, okay? If you put that lid on that pot or pan, we still want you to leave it there, and we still want you to get out and call 911. We'll be happy to come and make sure the fire is out. Call the fire department, we'll come and make sure everything is safe, all right? Let me go back. Turn off the burner. If you can reach the burner, if you can reach the controller on the burner, right, without putting yourself in harm's way, turn it off. All right, we want you to try and turn it off. Right, if you're putting yourself in harm's way, just get out, but turn it off. Okay. Side note to that: if you're cooking and you lose power, go back and check your stove top or your oven and make sure they're off. Because if your power comes on in the middle of the night and you had left that burner on, now the burner's on, you're sleeping, and a fire can occur, okay? So if you're cooking, make sure your stove is turned off if your power goes out. Even if you weren't cooking, it's a good thing to check, right? If your power's out, make sure you check those things. It'll prevent your fires. Fire in the oven or the microwave, right? Keep the door closed, right? So the door is closed maybe to your oven. You start smelling some smoke, you look in there, you see fire, turn the oven off, keep the door closed, right? Fire needs oxygen. If you don't open the door, right, you keep it contained inside the oven, get out, call 911, the fire department will come and take care of it. Okay, for those of you who have kids, nieces, nephews, whatever, 3 feet, 36 inches. Keep kids 3 feet away from the stove or the oven when it's on. Nobody wants to see a kid get burned, right, when they're young. I'm trying. Kid-free zone. Okay. Prevent scalds and burns, right? So we want to make sure you keep, and that's why we tell you to attend to your cooking, okay? Because we don't want it to get out of control, right? So all of this has to do with being attentive while you're cooking and staying in the kitchen. We don't want things to get boiling too hot, right? And we don't want you to get close. That's why you wear an oven mitt, right? That's why we tell you to wear an oven mitt when you're cooking, okay? So, pot handles, turn them away from the stove's edge. We don't want them sticking out, easily bumped. Use the back burners if you can, okay? That will also prevent you from reaching over a burner that's on with clothes that might be dangling. Quick on microwaves, right? Don't use aluminum foil or metal in the microwave, and use only microwave-safe cookware. So when something's heated in the microwave, right, it gets hot real quick, obviously. So when you open something, like if you put in a packaged dinner or something that has that foil, that plastic on the top, right, when you take that out, open it slow. Don't open it in front of you. Open it away from you, right? It'll prevent you from being scalded. Steam burns, okay? Obviously, and teach the children. If someone is burned, right? Cool water on the burn, call 911, okay? Call 911. It says down in the bottom, if the burn is bigger than your fist, or if you have any questions, seek medical attention right away. If you get burned, we want you to call 911. Okay, you guys probably aren't installing cooking appliances, that's fine. Okay, a couple more things. Smoke alarms, working smoke alarms. Please have working smoke alarms. Like I said, I've experienced all of this one way or the other. I've been to fires where they didn't have working smoke alarms and it didn't turn out so well. I've been to fires where they had working smoke alarms and they were able to get out of the house. Smoke alarms go in every sleeping unit and on every level of the house, okay? If you have your bedrooms upstairs, I want a smoke alarm in each bedroom and one in the hallway outside of the bedrooms, okay? Smoke alarm on every level. And I don't think it's in here, but there you go. Test them. The new smoke alarms that we are installing through the state of Michigan have a 10-year sealed battery. You don't need to change the battery. You still need to make sure that they work. You need to test them every month. Carbon monoxide alarms, it's not in here. Carbon monoxide, right? The silent killer, right? You need to have a carbon monoxide alarm on every level of your house too. You don't need it in every bedroom, but you need to have it in the hallway outside the bedroom, okay? Review. Watch what you heat. Stay alert, right? Anything that can catch fire, keep it away. If you have a cooking fire, right? If you have an oven mitt on and a lid, put the lid over it. If it's in your stove, turn off the burner. If it's inside the oven, keep the door closed. Turn the oven off, okay? Call 911, right? Keep kids away from the cooking area. We know how to prevent scalds and burns, right? And have working smoke alarms, working carbon monoxide alarms. Okay, for dorms, one other thing I'm going to say, extension cords, right? Everybody has things that had to be plugged in now and things that had to be charged. We don't want to use extension cords. If you're going to use something, we want you to use a power strip, okay? A power strip that has the little resettable button on it, okay? Not a glorified extension cord that just has the way to plug in 5 different things. We want it to be a fused power strip, okay? Surge protector. A lot of different names for them, but you make sure when you buy one that it's a surge protected power strip, okay? Candles. If you're going to burn candles, stay in the room, okay? Again, Bennett fires, where there was candles. Somebody left the room. The guy went downstairs to get his laundry. Next thing you know, his bedroom's on fire upstairs. So he was sitting up there watching TV, remembered that he had to go get his laundry, forgot about the burning candle. Bedroom fire spread to the rest of the house in the attic. I think that's about all I have for you. If anybody has any questions, I'll be in the back. You can ask me questions. If anybody needs smoke alarms, you're a resident of Southfield, come and talk to me. We'll set that up too. Thank you.
Chris, what about charging your computer or phone on your bed, or putting your phone under your bed when you're sleeping?
Yeah, shouldn't do that. Okay, so sorry. So yeah, so don't have something under your bed or under your pillow when it's charging, right? Keep it away from your bed. Keep it on a hard, solid surface. Obviously, when things charge, right, they dissipate heat, right, or they create heat, and we want that heat to be dissipated. So we can't have it contained. Same thing with if you're going to have your power strip for your computer. Don't run it under a rug or under the carpet, right? That doesn't allow the heat to dissipate. All right, so you have to have it exposed, allows the heat to dissipate. Okay?
Awesome, thank you. No, sounds great. Hey, what we hope, that's good. What we hope is that you'll take some of these tools, put them in your toolbox, and that you remember them and use them to keep you safe. These are things that, a lot of people that you've heard today have a lot of experience, and that we don't want to see bad things happen to you. I'm going to give you, I'll end with a personal story of myself about a bad decision I made. So when I was in high school, I lived on the east side of Detroit. I lived with my grandparents. And I asked my grandmother, I wanted to wear this cool leather jacket that I had. She had bought me this leather jacket, and she's like, son, I don't want you to wear that jacket because someone's going to take it from you. I'm like, okay. And I knew she was right, but I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be with other kids that had a lot of the cool new leather coats. So I wore this leather coat to school. Got out of school and started walking home. Wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, like Officer Pate talked about. Wasn't paying attention. Made a bad decision. I knew I wasn't supposed to wear the coat, went against the rules. A man walked behind me with a sawed-off shotgun, put it in my face. All he had to do was pull the trigger, and I was dead. Now, it was wrong for what he did, but I added to that. I made a bad decision. What we want you to remember tonight is that every decision you make has consequences, bad and good. You have to try to make the best decisions you can for the best outcome. I can't tell you how many young men and women come talk to me about being a firefighter, and they're really good candidates, but at the end they go, but chief, there's one thing. I did this thing when I was young. I did this thing I wasn't thinking. I wasn't paying attention. I just talked to a young man that would be a great firefighter, would be a great police officer, but he put a couple extra things in the bag at Myers when he's shopping groceries, delivering them to people's house. He just needed a couple extra things, and he put them in his bag. He stole them. It's going to prevent him from doing some of the things he wants to do. Remember these choices. You have choices. You've got to make the best possible choices. Don't be afraid to make some mistakes, but you got to understand that some of these decisions you make can change the outcome of your life. And we just want to try to give you some tools to help you remember that these things can change your life. But I hope you got something out of this. I want to thank Captain Medici again for setting this up. And we'll be around to answer your questions tonight that you might have. Hope you be safe out there.